Good morning, Oklahoma. This week on Cow-Calf Corner, we're going to discuss the benefits of estrous synchronization at the onset of breeding season and the potential benefits of artificial insemination and how they can work to our advantage in trying to improve profit potential. So first, some topics that we get into anytime we're thinking about going into breeding season. It's always beneficial to get as many of our cows bred early in breeding season as possible. It is going to result in more calves coming early in that following calving season. And when we wean, we're going to have a set of older, heavier, more uniform calves. If we have older, heavier, more uniform calves, it makes it possible for us to better implement management practices, herd health, vaccinations, concentrate our efforts of labor into shorter time frames. And so there's always upside and additional profit potential in doing that. So when we talk specifically about estrous synchronization, if we do that going into a breeding season, the big upside for us, if we go out and we've got those females that are 45 days to 2 months postpartum, if we begin a synchronization program at the point we're ready to begin breeding or turning out bulls, we see a higher percentage of females coming in initially in those first few days. And so if we're breeding natural, or specifically if we're checking heat for the sake of doing AI, we can concentrate our heat detection into a few days there. And even those cows that don't conceive are going to remain synced up to a degree so that even within the first 18 to 25 days of breeding season, we're going to see more return heats on those. So if we're checking heat for the sake of AI, it concentrates our labor into shorter time frames, and we're not out there continuously checking heat over a couple months or potentially 3 months. And so the upside is more of those cows get an opportunity to get serviced within the first 3 weeks of a breeding season, which relates to more calves coming in a timely fashion that following calving season. The other upside, if we're going to go to the time and expense of estrous synchronization, is it permits us to use artificial insemination, or using bulls that have got more genetic value for traits that are economically important to us than we could necessarily get with just natural service sires. And so that's kind of the other advantage that folds in to estrous synchronization, is potentially catching those cows and doing some AI work on them, at least in the early stages before we may turn out a bull to breed natural service. As Dr. Whitworth mentioned earlier in the show, we feel like breeding soundness exams on our bulls are going to be really important this year, relating back to that extreme cold snap that we had through the month of February. And so as we think long term, defined breeding seasons permit us to manage better. If we can synchronize estrus at the beginning of breeding season, we end up seeing more calves born earlier that following calving season, which increases our profit potential. Appreciate you joining us this week. We'll see you next week on Cow-Calf Corner. And in weeks to come, we're going to get into specific synchronization programs, and we'll be addressing that as we get a little bit later in the spring. Thank you.